Hello and welcome to Zelda Speedruns. Today we're pleased to bring you another no major glitches tournament match. It is Group N, negazeus versus shkoople. Hopefully they'll come on in for an introduction and or for interview rather, and tell us how to pronounce their names. But today on commentary, I am pleased to be joined by Desert Eagle 417 and Vortex of Doom. And how you both doing tonight?
I'm doing great. I've been looking forward to this match. These runners have very close PBs.
Yes.
Just over a minute apart. Shkoople's currently unsubmitted PB is a 129.10. And negazeus just recently got a 130.16. So in that 130 range, there's going to be a lot of variance in what runners are good at, what parts they're strong at, and just the performance from run to run can vary a lot, which makes these races really exciting.
Okay, I'm going to turn it over to both of you, and I'm going to check in with the runners, so hopefully we'll be starting at the top of the hour. So thank you very much.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I'm Vortex of Doom, and I am joined by Desert Eagle. And how are you doing?
Doing all right, not too bad today. It's a day off of work, so always a relaxing day.
Excellent.
Yeah, pretty excited here for this race. PB, like you said, just about a minute apart, which... in a game like this, there's things that can cost you a minute or more. So,
yeah, and entirely out of your control at that too. So it's not these runners can both play at PB level and have it still be a very close race. So
definitely. Yeah, so looking at the group standings here, unless shkoople had a match earlier today, I think this is their first match. And this looks like negazeus's third match, by the looks of things.
From lurking the standing or the race results page, I think that is correct. So yeah, this should be a good one. Shkoople, I believe, is the second seeded runner in this group. I think Glan, and I'm trying to think of the fourth.
Coxla, assuming I pronounced that correct. Yeah. So Glan's the number one seed. So Nega has a 1-1 record, so this could. This could lock him into a higher place here. It's interesting to see what's going to happen. I always like seeing here in the file name choices when the runners are cheering each other on, like a good yump, for example. All right. Well, while we're waiting for the runners to finish getting their file names in here, how are you guys doing in chat? Hope you're nice and comfy and ready for this race here. And, will Aga play nice today for both runners? Is he going to pick a favorite? I don't know.
Let's hope so. Shkoople showing his creativity. For any who don't know, your opponent chooses your file names just for verification purposes, and so Shkoople knew a good idea when he saw one.
Indeed.
So yeah, I think we're getting started soon. Man, the killing time thing in the Dead Space. There's I come from a rando background, as does Shkoople, where I met him, and there's only so much you can talk about when you know what's coming with the vanilla game until something actually happens, like it is now. But it's not going to be super exciting for a little bit longer. The escape sequence is pretty scripted, pretty consistent at all levels. There's probably at most in the whole tournament, I'd wager about 20 seconds max difference between the best and worst escape times we'll be seeing.
Yep. I mean, the worst that can happen is if someone gets if someone tries to get greedy with ball and chain guard and it doesn't go well. Other than that, there's the worst thing you have to worry about is chasing down Key Rat.
Yep. And
that's about it. So it's all about your movement here, doing your wall pumping to get that extra speed boost, keep that 2 pixel movement going. But other than that, just do the thing.
So yeah, to answer the question in chat, there are 3 chests in the game that can have the lamp. There is the one in Link's house, the one over by Uncle, both of which we ignore, and then the one in Zelda's cell. And any of the others, if you pick up after getting the lamp, will be 5 rupees. And the reason the game gives you 3 chances is because the developers decided that they wanted to make sure you had the lamp before trying to go to the escape section, the sewers. So you can't actually push the big false wall behind the throne unless you have the lamp. Zelda will complain and tell you can't do it. So that's the developers decided that they'd give you 3 chances to try to get the lamp to avoid that happening.
Yep. So without any kind of glitches, no dark rooms, thankfully, or maybe not thankfully. I don't know. Maybe you like them. It's kind of interesting. So Uncle, as far as I know, Uncle's chest is the only one that in any category you never pick the lamp up there. Like in some of the RMG categories, you pick it up in Link's house. Mm-hmm. For example, RMG All Dungeons. But yeah. So both of them having a pretty nice ball and chain fight here.
Yeah, both also doing the one pot strat. Interesting, because I know Shkoople in the past. I've always watched him do 8/slash for PB attempts and stuff, and it makes sense to do one pot because it loses very little time. I think on the order of 30 to 40 frames, and is more consistent for most people. Less hits, less time around ball and chain. It's a pretty good trade-off.
Yeah, exactly. And, if you happen to take a couple pokes on the way up here, it's a nice heart refill if you want it. Or just in general, a good safety.
Mm-hmm.
Fortunately, negazeus getting a little bullied by green guards over here.
Yeah, down to 1 heart. That's the point where I always choose to grab the heart pot on the way to the basement. I usually try to press my luck any less, but when you only have 1 heart and the snakes do half a heart and the rats do a quarter heart, you're looking at 2, maybe 3 hits before you die. It's very it's a smart move to pick it up, and that's a big thing about this game is knowing where your backup options for hearts, arrows, bombs. The pots in this game are very useful if you know what's in them, and much less useful if you are wandering around desperately looking for an extra bomb that you need right now. So learning that is a big part of learning this game.
Shkoople, that second rat was like, no, it's my key. You can't have it.
Yeah.
It's just hanging out right over it, blocking the boomerang. Gotta hate it.
And yeah, the restream is pretty much right on, or like the runners are pretty synced up with their game clocks. So Shkoople coming out of escape at 5. It's 558.94 by his splits. And negazeus at 605. Still, pretty close. It's
about 6 seconds, give or take.
But yeah, there are going to be many places where either runner can instantly lose that margin. So, and both runners predictably picking up Sankheart, which is the best and probably the freest safety in the game. Gets you an extra hit on a couple early game dungeons and bosses, which is huge.
Yeah, for sure. Especially probably the biggest impact it's going to have is usually getting you that extra hit on Helmasaur. In Pod.
Another big one is the Eastern Big Key skip. If you miss the coming up is one of the first big tricks of the run, where the runners will try to damage boost into a Popo, one of the little blue tentacle monsters you'll see, to skip a kill all enemies puzzle in for the Eastern Big Key. And on 3 hearts, if you miss that Popo, you hit it and it starts moving away and you can't get the damage boost right. You have to damage boost on the anti-fairies themselves. And to do that, it takes 2 full hearts. And if you've already taken 1, that puts you at half a heart if you didn't grab Sankheart. So Sankheart will keep you at a heart and a half, making that nowhere near as punishing to miss. Because you can pretty comfortably do the back of Eastern on a heart and a half, but in fact, that's what you try to do without Sankheart. But on half a heart, it's much dicier.
Yeah, for sure. And if your big key skip there, for lack of a better name, big key skip there goes wrong, thankfully, and this is again where having knowledge of what's under the pots can really come into play here. The 2 pots in that room both have a heart under it, which, if it really goes wrong, thankfully there's some safety hearts right there for you.
Yeah, and I wouldn't expect to see anyone at half a heart during a race setting not grab one of those. Maybe for PB attempts or something. You've already lost a little time. You don't want to put more in, but I think that's pretty reasonable one. And here's the room we're talking about. Shkoople executing it, pretty nicely, getting some very rude Popo RNG on the damage boosting one. It's very rare that you see it go all the way over there.
Yeah. Still, damage boost very nicely done. Ideally, you want to hope that your damage boost off the anti-fairy bops you upward.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, it wasn't perfect, but there are ways to make it more consistent. But the automatic pot throw hit the Popo, so he didn't have to worry about it hitting him. He didn't get damage boosted downward, which is good. I think it was to the left.
Yeah, they both went left.
Mm-hmm. And both runners also picked up a pot before heading to the big key with 5 arrows. That's another one of the. It's an optional sort of safety. They're looking for 18 arrows for this boss fight to do the quick kill. And if you don't pick up those arrows and don't get any arrow drops from any of the 3 Igors back here, you'll be at 17 arrows, which is not enough. Shkoople missing the quick kill, and negazeus getting stonewalled by the double Igors. Having an extra cycle on them is one of the more punishing time losses from a minor mistake in the dungeon.
Yeah. At least negazeus was able, during the pause there, to go pick up that red rupee, which, what you want here is by the time you're done with Tower of Hera, you want at least 10 rupees. Well, sorry. I guess by the time you get to Pod, you need them, but...
technically, all you really need coming out of Hera, if they're both doing the tree pull strat, I know Shkoople does, and given that negazeus picked up the 20, I am assuming that he is going to as well. Do the tree pull rupees.
Yep.
So there are 6 free rupees in Aga Tower that you get in Circle of Pots. And then the tree pulls themselves total up to 100. So you need 4 more rupees to total the 110 that they're going to need in about 20 minutes or so. A little less, hopefully, to pay Kiki to get into Palace of Darkness.
Yeah, so usually you're going to pick up some rupees from, some of those Popo kills in Eastern. You'll typically have 5 or 6 rupees coming out of there. Mm-hmm. And then there's a really nice 5 rupee drop in Desert Palace. That's easy to grab. And, worst case scenario, you don't have 10 by then, you grab that one, and you should be good. But the more rupees you get beforehand that you're, not going out of your way for, you can skip more rupees on the trees, which is nice.
And both runners hitting their spin speeds so far that they've gone for, which is... Spin speed is a trick, for anyone who doesn't know, exclusive to the Japanese 1.0 version like most of them. negazeus not going for the second spin speed here. I didn't notice if you went for the first. But if you release a spin and press dash on the next frame, Link enters a glitched state where if you exit a set of stairs cardinally, Link will have dashing speed, which is 4 pixels per frame, without the limitations of charging a dash or only cardinal movement, which is very handy for speedrunning. There's quite a few places where it's helpful in the run. It also does some interesting things with a couple bosses. That glitched speed state, without the speed activated, changes your item hitboxes, which we'll hopefully get a chance to talk about when the time comes.
Yep.
Both runners are in Desert Palace now, which is a great boots warm-up for me. You know, it's clearly the devs knew you'd be getting your boots before heading here and wanted to give you some nice long lines to test them out, which is it's a lot of fun. It's a pretty not the hardest dungeon from a casual or speedrunning perspective, but definitely there's a lot of fun stuff here. The boss is one of the first big difference makers in any run. Landmolas are a boss that I think in vanilla the devs kind of wanted to hint you toward the ice rod, because it does great damage against them. Because if you talk to Sahasrara after you get your boots, like if you leave and come back, he'll hint that you should go to the place where the ice rod is. Not saying ice rod or anything, but that's not the fastest way to go. So our runners will be using the bow, which is a much more technical fight, a much harder fight, and a fight that relies a lot more on reading the RNG well. Shkoople going under that first torch. What that does is it keeps the popos, the second set of popos, off screen long enough that they haven't started moving yet by the time you dash up there, and so getting past them is free. Negazeus taking the other path, which can be optimally faster, but the popos can block your way, and then you'll have to slash, and then you'll lose time. So Shkoople and entering the Landmo fight. Solid opener. Nice. Unkind short hop there.
Yeah, those damn short hops. 3 cycle, not too bad. Pretty good.
Not too bad at all. I can't think of many people who would be unhappy with a 3 cycle Landmolas.
Yep.
You
Negazeus
got to be at 123 level to be actively disappointed. Yeah, Negazeus is looking more like my Landmo fights, and
yeah, this is one of the things that when this is the boss you're probably going to practice more than anything else, and just getting down the placement at the start, not too bad, dash into the room and bonk. But really, once you get past that first cycle, knowing how to, chase down the enemy properly so you can keep hitting them with arrows and not just get like that 1 or 2 off as he bursts out of the ground is, definitely important if you want to get good times here.
Yep. And Shkoople doing another is the first one to our next Japanese 1.0 exclusive glitch, one of many in the run. That's fake flippers. So if you prevent a splash from occurring, the splashing animation is what actually checks whether Link has flippers. And if that never happens, such as on a screen transition, Negazeus having a little trouble. This is so that the splash didn't happen, and so he could screen transition in time for the game to not kick you out. So I think that splash takes 8 frames to occur. There are some other ways to avoid it, to keep it from happening. So, but that's the only one we do in the run. I think we get flippers before the next time we need to swim. So,
Shkoople getting a nice spin speed up the mountain there. Didn't really even get interrupted by the boulders, which is
nice,
just amazing.
RNG. Deadrock's pretty friendly to Negazeus as well. And we get the mirror, which is a very useful item. Yeah, the boulder's not as nice to Negazeus. Could be way worse, though. And we see that Negazeus is quite capable of doing the spin speeds he was skipping earlier. First try, no issues.
Yeah, at least they left him alone after getting spin speed. Because when you get hit in spin speed state, it's just sad.
It's there are a couple places where you use it where it can be very dangerous to get hit, just because if you get hit, one of your reflexes is to try to slash, and one of the notable things about spin speed, and one of the ways you check for it, is you can't slash your sword while doing it.
Thankfully, pressing the dash button will get you out of that state. Mm-hmm. So, like here, or really anywhere you're in the state and you now need to defend yourself, just get out of it. If you're halfway up to those stairs and you get hit by a boulder, you may as well just leave the state and re-get it on the long stairs.
Shkoople having a little trouble with the beetle room. However, does get a very nice arrow drop. His arrow count was good, but the arrow route in this game can be... There are enough to do whatever you need pretty close to along the way, but... Shkoople opting not to do the Hera bomb jump. I'm a friend of Shkoople's, and the Hera bomb jump has been the bane of his Zelda existence for quite a while. He actually got his first sub 90 without the Hera bomb jump, and he refused to do the bomb jump at all until he was consistent with the early bomb jump, which is nutty to me. But yeah, he was getting it in practice beforehand, and I think he didn't want to mess up what is a pretty good run for him by missing it.
That's fair. Definitely fair.
However, it is 12 seconds that he could save by doing it, and if Negazeus does a nice bomb jump here, that is definitely some time that Shkoople will be giving back.
Negazeus gets it.
Very nice. A bonk setup. It gives you a lot of wiggle room as far as where you can be standing prior to the bomb exploding.
Ooh, getting rejected by Moldorm. That's unfortunate when Moldorm's hanging out right there at the bottom. And you try and dash off. Basically, you have two choices. If you dash off, you're going to bonk back up. If you jump down, he's going to hit you, and that could equal a bonk off the edge.
Those spins were very savvy play from Negazeus. They were about as safe as you can play a Moldorm. That's playing around on the side like that, especially if you don't want to fall. He went for a couple spins and he actually got a couple. So that was nice. Wasn't the fastest you can do it, but that was a savvy little bit of play there.
For sure.
Oh, and we already saw from shkoople the first of the tree pulls. So how the tree pulls work in this game is there are 3 tiers, and you get them. So that tier 1 is you've killed between 1 and 4 enemies, 1 and 3 enemies since your last tree pull. Tier 2 is you've killed 4 or more enemies since your last tree pull. In this case, this is the first one they're doing. This is the start of the game. And you have taken damage, which any runner will do between the start of the game and now. And then tier 3 is killing 4 enemies without taking damage. And we're seeing negazeus kill 2 enemies now. That bird and the bush crab. And then shkoople killed the last one. Both killed the bird right after the first tree pull. And setting up for the second tree pull, which is red rupees, which is the other 80.
Actually, a good bit of advice here is, always dash through bushes, because there's bush bombs, little hidden landmines, and those count as the damage that will knock you out of, tier 3 range for getting that tree pull. And if you lose that, there is a tree right here.
Yep, right off to the
on
right.
shkoople side you can grab. But of course, you have to take the time to really, kill all the enemies and do that all over. No one got the Saha rupees.
Yeah, neither runner opted for them. They only lose if you don't pick up the bomb chest with the extra text box. They only cost about 5 seconds over the best possible tree rupees, but it's pretty safe, and you only lose a couple seconds to them if you have to do the backup by the uncle drop down. Yeah. negazeus had much better luck with rupee drops than shkoople did, and also got stonewalled by the 2 Igors in Eastern, so he had time to pick up the 20 drop, but had much better luck overall. And so now both runners are shortly going to be in Aghanim's Tower, which is probably one of the first really technical parts of the run. There is a lot of game knowledge and just execution that goes into doing this split well. And we see both runners doing the fairy skip. So if you dash through an enemy, they don't advance their prize pack. And those stabby blue guards are in the same prize pack as mini Helmosaurs, the Pokies in Turtle Rock, and a couple other enemies, which notably drops a fairy in full magic. And by dashing through those 2 guards, you can hopefully make sure, if nothing else goes wrong, that you don't get that fairy before Turtle Rock, which will be relevant much later in the run, because there are a couple damage boosting strats. The enemies there do a lot of damage. negazeus handling that very well. You have to do that room a little differently with beams, and you can't really go for the key dash. You have to stand a little higher so the bow guard doesn't come to the middle of the room and own you. So that was well done. And so now it's the big RNG portion of the run, the famous RNG portion. There's RNG everywhere. shkoople starting right off with 1 blue ball. So the way Aghanim works is he has a cycle of five attacks that he'll go through. The first one will always be an energy ball that you can knock back into him, and that was that. Then there are 3 that are 50-50 chances for an energy shot or a blue ball. And then the last one will always be a lightning attack that doesn't target you. He's on the top of the screen. You need to hit him 6 times. So mathematically that works out to, if you don't miss any, the maximum you can have is 15. Which is an enormous amount of time, because each extra shot costs 6 seconds. So if you, on the last one that can be an energy ball, if that's a blue ball and it costs you an extra lightning, that's extra 12 seconds. While I was explaining that, I neglected to actually count. It was a fair few blue balls for Shkoople. However, I happen to know his PB has 8. So he didn't get that many. He is definitely coming out of this split ahead.
That is a lot to have in a PB here.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is some strategy to this fight here, other than just knock the ball back at him. And I missed if Shkoople was doing it, but negazeus was definitely doing it. Generally speaking, because Aghanim's going to teleport to some random place in the room. Well, not completely random, I guess. I don't think. But you want to hit Aghanim back toward the center of the room to just try and minimize that teleport distance. I guess every fifth attack he's going to go back to the top, so you can try and hit him that way every 5th hit. That's just like these smaller time saves that when you start getting good times, you really want to go for.
So looking at the runner splits, we can see them on our side. These runners are only a couple screens apart. Shkoople is 50 seconds ahead of his PB. negazeus is 40 seconds behind. And they're still, all things considered, very close. So this has been a pretty close race so far. So yeah. Both of our runners doing a pretty good job.
Yeah, they're basically just, the dark world, overworld apart. That was hard to say. World 2 times back to back. For everyone who runs both NMG and RMG, which is restricted major glitches, this is your favorite dungeon. And I mentioned this last time as well, but this dungeon has incredibly different routing, depending on the way you're entering pod, basically. And if you run both, when you switch from one to the other, you're almost certainly going the wrong way. Like, it's just gonna happen.
The same is true of Randomizer. You route the dungeon differently when you're playing it in Randomizer, which Shkoople started playing the game about a year ago. And he started with Randomizer, and we picked up NMG, sort of as a way to hone our skills originally, and both of us have really grooved on it. But yeah, pod is a very different thing. If you're opening everything versus opening as little as possible, as we see Shkoople doing one of the toughest bomb jumps in the game, the hammer jump. It's a huge time save, close to a minute, I think. Saves you from having to go all the way down to the basement, all the way through the maze. double pixel perfect trick. It's very, very tricky. But very, very worth it. And a lot of fun to practice. shkoople did the 2-bomb setup, placed 2 bombs before, so he had an extra menu buffer to mirror to help judge his placement. negazeus, just doing 1 bomb, much safer, a little slower, but honestly, the hammer yump you don't fail is the fastest one. So
yeah, for sure. Definitely better to, because if you fall, you have to leave the room, come back in, reset the bridge, and then do it all over again. Plus, you're losing health, which is the worst part of failing the bomb jump. Because you really want to have sword beams coming down here to the basement.
As we see,
much better.
As we see negazeus picking up a single heart pot there. All 3 of those have hearts, but every one that you don't, every one you have to pick up is more movement that you wouldn't have to do otherwise. And that switch on shkoople's side is why you want beams, so you don't have to menu off hammer.
Little bit of a turtle party, but didn't take that much damage, which is
he important. Did take the 1 heart, so sank heart not really in play for Helma here.
True,
but Helma is one of the early game gates. It's a huge jump in difficulty from the game you've been playing casually up to this point, in my experience. negazeus having a much cleaner turtle room than shkoople. And shkoople showing off some cool tech. That spin speed we mentioned earlier extends your hammer hitbox and makes it much easier to hit Helmasaur, and he takes him down nicely. Also, another cool bit of tech, if there are fireballs on the screen and you break Helma's mask, they'll go. The fireballs will just despawn. So he actually waited for that 17th hit on the mask to make sure there were no fireballs on screen.
Ooh. negazeus getting a really aggressive Helma, which is unfortunate. Oh, that's very unfortunate.
And that's a punishing death. Helmasaur will do that to the best of runners sometimes. Like it's something that happens. But it's very demoralizing to have that happen. At this point in a run, that's usually a reset, but this is a race, so the show must go on.
Yep. And dying here is a sizable time loss, but I mean it's not over yet.
No,
there have been races where the racer died to Helma and still ultimately won.
I think
things can still go wrong. Cold Stare, for example.
Yep, I think Satan Spawn earlier in the tournament actually game overed in pod, and still not only. Well, I don't think she didn't win the race, but she got a PB all the same, even with coming out of pod like 2 minutes behind.
My
her opponent
first
also
race.
PB'd, which is to blame for the lack of a win there. But
that would be the Satan Spawn versus
Brewers fan
JP. I almost said NY Rambler, which is the other person in our group.
You're in that group too.
Yep. Yeah, my first race, actually, I died to Helma after practicing him a bunch right before. Because, that's how things go. But I still ended up winning that race, so it's very much possible. Very much possible to still win. Viddy is an expensive death. Cold Stare, Trinex, top of Aga Tower. Like there's I hope I'm not cursing. Commentators cursing here, but there's There's potential.
Helma was very rude in the first phase again to negazeus, but about as good a phase 2 as you can ask for on the refight. Sure, he wishes he got that one the first time around, but he got the job done, and on to the next split. So this is the point in the game where the speedrun differs from what you probably did in your vanilla playthrough. The second dungeon in vanilla is Swamp Palace. However, to get the Tempered Sword, which is the last sword the runners will be getting, you need the Titan's Mitts from the 4th dungeon, which is Thieves Town. And you want that extra damage basically as quickly as possible for a number of reasons. Additionally, having Master Sword only conveniently doesn't matter much for Thieves Town. So that is certainly not like it does for the bosses of Skullwoods and Swamp Palace, which are the two that you quote-unquote sequence break. The game is very open-ended, and you could technically do it in whatever order.
Yeah. So I want to point out there, negazeus getting really close to that Murderdactyl on the way out of Pod Overworld, or in the pod section there. Really close, but very, very nicely done to avoid that. You do not want to get hit by Murderdactyl. They do a lot of damage, and they just hover around you and do more.
Yeah, they do 3 hearts, and if you get hit once, it's often hard to avoid getting hit twice. So that is definitely a segment that should be practiced. Shkoople actually missing the initial dash, but adjusting nicely for the God Pixel in that Hellway there. So if you neutral dash out of the door without pressing any left or right inputs, you'll actually, you'll have a much better chance of getting aligned perfectly to just dash right through that room, which is still RNG dependent. Meanwhile, negazeus showing off what I consider the most important spin speed in the game. It's not probably the biggest time save, but there's a red guard on that screen that is relentless. If you have spin speed, he's pretty easy to avoid, and if you don't, he will chase you down and he will find you, and he might kill you.
The community lovingly refers to him as Usain Bolt because he is so fast.
Here are the Titan's Mitts, which are what we came for. It's been a pretty clean dungeon from shkoople. He's headed to a boss fight where if you're familiar with the speedruns of this game, either randomizer or vanilla, you have probably heard this. However, for those who haven't, blind is a scripted fight. If you hit him first frame, he is vulnerable every time. He will have the exact same movements afterward. So there are specific movements, and we've done around getting set up for these first frame hits while avoiding the shots. So yeah, it's a nicely done script from shkoople, and gets his second of the 7 crystals. And yeah, so refight blind, needless to say, is I think hypothetically, if you did it correctly, like he starts the movement the same way, if you could get first frame hits, you could actually probably get back on script, but it's virtually impossible, and it's very difficult to handle a blind refight. The best way to do it is grabbing a couple extra hearts and getting sword beams so you can sort of hit him as many times from the bottom of the screen as possible. And we're picking up our enchanted blacksmith, who is a frog for some reason. Also in the Dark World for some reason. But he is going to be returned, and we are going to get a much better sword for our trouble.
This room that negazeus is in is both... It can be both nice and mean. Those blue Zizexes do often give you heart drops, and there's another heart drop in there. But that red Zizex, if he decides to be evil, he'll come right up the middle and shoot fireballs at you. So it's like a really kind but also really evil room at the same time.
Yeah, if you if you don't have much health, the dungeon has chipped away at you a little. That is one of the most terrifying things that can happen at Thieves Town. Shkoople not trying the most important trick in the game. No fence dash here. That's fine.
I think that's a 17-year time lost, if I'm not mistaken.
I think he'll be penalized out of any potential win as a result. But not to worry. negazeus getting a little off script, but clutches it out with one heart. And again, getting off script is more dangerous than it is time loss most of the time. Back to that the blind cell room. I will always maintain that if the red Zazak is heading up the middle and shooting, the correct thing to do is just to dash down and hope you frame rule it, because it feels so good if that actually happens. Shkoople making quick work of the mummy room to get the big key. Somehow avoiding damage on that Ropa. And Shkoople is now going to attempt his second. It was his second anyway. Bomb jump of the run. And he gets it. And, that... So if you fall into that pit, you just get put back at the entrance. Whereas if you fall in Hera, you fall down to the entrance of the dungeon and have to climb back up again. So we see maybe why he opted not to go for it.
Yeah. And normally there, you bomb jump over to the chest, but you'll just fall down the hole because it puts you right back at the door. But, when you're at 3 health here, you want to conserve some of that for the last portion of Skullwoods here, because it's mean. Well, the boss is mean.
Yeah, the boss does 2 hearts of damage. So, a lot of times it's good to make decisions based on what your damage breakpoints will be. So Shkoople could take a hit from the boss right now. If he fell into the pit, he couldn't. So I was gonna point out the Joe Mummy strats that shkoople was trying to use there, but they've seen better execution. Okay, shkoople wants that heart. He wants that extra damage hit, and
nice
the swag
key dash.
YOLO key dash out of nowhere.
I was not expecting that.
That makes up for the fence dash for sure. This has not been a good Skullwood split for shkoople, just judging by what I know of his play. But you know, he didn't die. He kept it going. He probably did line up with the pot to set up the key dash, but actually, that's probably is the case, because I can't imagine he wouldn't have canceled it otherwise. I didn't mention in the discussion after, but shkoople's Thieves Town was gold. He was 48 seconds ahead after Thieves Town, losing some of that here, but yeah, shkoople's on a pretty decent PB pace.
Yeah, and you know, speaking more on Mothula here, like the moth itself is not really that difficult. The real boss is the room there. You know, since I know there's a lot of rando players here in chat, you know, if you've done Randomizer and you fought Mothula literally anywhere else, he's a complete pushover.
negazeus in a similar position, low on hearts. You really don't want to take any more damage than you have to. That, you know, that 2 hearts there. If he picks up the same pot shkoople did, he can have those same two hits on the boss. Whereas if he fell into the pit and that same thing happened, you know, he'd be at 1 heart. That's not an ideal result for that room, but it is definitely less time lost than a death a little later. So,
For sure. And
might
nice
be a blessing
health
in disguise. Yeah, it not only is faster than that death, but makes that death less likely. So, and much better than getting hit by a ropa outside, as Josh said in chat. Nice full magic refill. That's gonna save precious seconds on the cutscene after Moth. It's probably at least a full second, if not close to 2. See shkoople picking up his flippers, and yeah, the fake flippering, jumping into water without flippers, it's done. We got the flips now, and we're gonna use them. So as this is any percent no save and quit, you know, again, going back to rando, if you see people save and quit out of Zora because it's faster than most other ways of getting out. But we can't save and quit because it's against the rules. So Ice Palace is the next dungeon, mostly by virtue of, you know, that whirlpool being there.
There was actually a community vote on both Icebreaker and Diver Down, but those are disallowed. And probably will never be.
Yeah, the conversation I don't think is going to be open for quite a while. I think I love the Ice Palace bomb jump as a trick. You know, I also hate it, but It's so cool. It's so technical. It's so swag. Icebreaker would be very cool because it would make Blue Mail an actually viable safety, because you'd go right by the big key.
I kind of like that they're not allowed here because it gives RMG a more distinct flavor in like the all dungeons run as well. I mean, it's already distinct, but like having, you know, more like having a different routing for Ice Palace, a different routing for Swamp, really is pretty cool.
The nice hammer dash strat for the IPBJ. Shkoople, I love that setup, even when I'm not executing it well. Also hits all the pen gators in one spin, which I can never seem to do.
It was almost a really nice room there from Shkoople, but just slid off the stairs.
Meanwhile, negazeus is making his way through Zora's domain, having a pretty good go of it himself. Not wasting too much on the dashes or anything. The movement in this game is easily the most important thing. Probably followed by expedient boss kills. I think those two things will carry you a very long way if you master nothing else. And so a lot of, speaking of expedient boss kills, Shkoople making quick work of Cold Stare. That is a quick kill I have been working on basically since I started speedrunning the game, and it is easily the most worthwhile investment of time I've made. The single poke dash Cold Stare is so good.
Getting a little bit trolled by that blue Bari there on Nega's side.
Yeah, and we see why it is so nice to have sword beams in the first room of ice, or the second room of ice rather. Being able to just snipe that berry from the entrance it makes the room so much more consistent. Now we're seeing what could be another potential bit of divergence, kind of like Saha Rupees. Lots of runners do the various errands they have to run. You have to get Ether and the Ice Rod, and it really doesn't matter when you do them after you get the flute and are using it. So many runners will opt to get both in the Swamp split, because going into Swamp without beams is a lot less punishing than going into Misery Mire without beams. But some will get Ether in Swamp and Ice Rod in the Turtle Rock split, which is, I know, what Shkoople does. So he's headed to Swamp Palace next. And so that could be a bit of divergence. Wouldn't even back out until Turtle Rock split.
Yeah, another option there for that routing is getting Ether after Swamp Palace, because then you have the hook shot and the long staircase going up. You also get a little bit of boost there if you do the hook climb as well. But
yeah, it's there aren't many runners who do Ether in Mire. It's a pretty marginal time save at best, and one heart less in Mire. It just makes the second row of Mire dicier, Mire 2, and just the whole dungeon gets dicier, the less health you have. But it is mostly a matter of preference where you choose to do it. A little early on that spin from negazeus and taking what is easily the most punishing death in the game. A cold stare death, since you have to use all of your magic to get that shell melted. You have to go somewhere else. He would have the option, if he so chose, to like try to kill the pickles because they're in that magic prize pack. To try to see if you could get a fire rod shot, and then the pen gators are also in it. So if you get into the dungeon, it's not too hard to get your magic back. But yeah, that is a serious run killer. So mad props to negazeus for continuing the run. Many runners would forfeit at that point or anything, and honestly, like, sticking it out says something all by itself. So mad props.
For sure. And this is this is my favorite way to deal with dying with cold stare if I'm not going to reset. It's just like, well, you can't do anything without the magic, so may as well just come do this dungeon, get the magic refill, and then go back. Like, it's time loss either way, so
yeah, that would be what I did after, if I killed the PB attempt scenario. Like, a cold stare death is an automatic reset. So some runners don't even know like what the best way to handle it is. So that's definitely. People got his big key for this dungeon. To get the hook shot, which is one of the coolest items in this game, in my opinion. It's one of the most unique things in. It's so iconic. It's so cool. I don't know. I love the hook shot.
Yeah, this is definitely my favorite item in the game. Just the amount of tricks it allows you to do, the movement speed it can give you. The invincibility frames it can give you. Like, there's just so much that you can really do because of this item. It's amazing.
And coming up is the real reason that I think the Tempered Sword is routed in so much earlier. This fight makes a huge difference with Tempered Sword. It's not the only reason. Moth is probably a bigger reason, frankly. Hyperbolic. Shkoople not going for the zero cycle. The zero cycle is a quite difficult trick, and you can do the fight just as fast as failing it without too much effort. But does the job nicely. Takes down Argus. Nice fight. Yeah, and that's a fair point from Fox. I was neglecting flipper money, which is a very important part.
Alright, so I'm curious where or how negazeus will go after the fight here. There's definitely not going to be the quick phase 2, because no magic. But could get the zero cycle.
A super common trap, actually. If you go for the fire rod phase 2 habitually, and then you're doing swamp to refill your magic because you failed at ice, you can do a menu for a lovely little beep.
Yep. So it looks like negazeus is going to go for the 1 cycle fight here. It's again, unless you put in the practice for it, it's going to be much more consistent for you.
Yeah, I will say about the 0 cycle, it takes a long time to get the 0 cycle down. It doesn't take anywhere near as long to get the 0 cycle strat to the point where you don't lose time for trying it. I would say the majority of my Argus fights are a very fast 1 cycle, with the occasional bonus 0 cycle thrown in there. But if you're not comfortable with the fight, it's really not worth trying it, especially in a race setting, or as shkoople is still on PB pace. Losing a gamble, the first. That's usually a pretty safe place to go if you haven't seen a fire snake. But taking a heart of damage for his trouble.
That was a very nice Mire 2 from shkoople. Mm-hmm. Very well done.
So we'll see if negazeus goes right back to ice, or at this point he just has to go before Turtle Rock. I haven't actually thought about which is faster, fluting or... I think fluting is probably a little faster, but... I
was actually just trying to figure that out myself.
The fastest thing to do is just go with whatever you think of doing rather than trying to spend time figuring out which is faster. So he made his choice, he went with it, and that's speedrunning for you.
Yep. And still props here to negazeus for continuing the run and not forfeiting it. My urge at this point would be very strong, so definite props for carrying on.
And all the extra bombs that negazeus got from his pod death really coming into play here, as he does not have many extra. Grabbing that 4-drop from the skeletons, or the Stalfos Knights, just doesn't want to leave anything to chance with the Ice Palace bomb jump here. This is definitely a trick that...
It's a little unfortunate.
Yes. If you are facing downward, if you do the bomb jump on that pixel, you'll get thrown into the pit. This is the game knowledge required to know what's going on for every bomb placement and link placement combination for Ice Palace bomb jump is frankly mind-boggling. There's so much work that has gone into understanding that trick. Meanwhile, shkoople is coming to what can be a kind of scary boss fight, but it's one of the coolest NMG strats. It was one of the most striking to me starting out. You're damage boosting in the goo surrounding Vitreous to take 1 damage per tick from that instead of the 4 whole hearts of damage from getting hit by the eyes, or the 2 from the lightning. The lightning you hopefully won't see, which shkoople didn't. It was a very nice Vitreous fight. But that's one of the coolest boss strats that sort of ends up getting overlooked a lot because it's pretty consistent. It's not too hard to get the hang of.
Negazeus going in for his revenge and getting it very nicely.
Nailing that quick kill. And so I'm wondering, like, obviously the splits are completely borked for him anyway, but he hasn't skipped the swamp split as well. I'm wondering if he always does his shopping in Mire split, which because sometimes you forget things when you're doing backup stuff to refill magic and stuff like that. I was wondering if we'd see him do any shopping in that, but he didn't. Meanwhile, shkoople picking up his ice rod and is done and heading to Death Mountain to finish off Turtle Rock and Ganon's Tower.
All right, here we go.
That was a fortuitously timed bonk from shkoople just before his iframes ran out, so he still has his beams, which can be kind of nice for the first for dealing with the dead rocks in the first lobby room of Turtle Rock.
Ooh, got really lucky there with the dead rock placement, was able to squeeze through. Very nice.
So much for the beams, but does get the hook speed, which is the same state as spin speed. Call it different things because you activate them kind of differently input-wise, but it is the same state. Just to clear up any possible confusion. negazeus, for all that dead rock luck, did climb Death Mountain without taking any damage, which is what you're hoping for if you're doing Ether in the Mire split.
I always appreciate it when people strike a pose going into that portal there after fluting to 6. One of my favorite things to do.
This roller room strat in Turtle Rock is one of my favorite warm-ups. It's a technical. It's technical, but not too complicated. It's a really cool little trick. Taking a damage boost from the rollers that do 3 hearts, and we'll hopefully be seeing. Yeah, we're seeing why we dashed through those enemies 50-ish minutes ago, so that shkoople could get that fairy there, have beams for hopefully for the majority of the dungeon. Save a little time in a couple places and make the game a lot safer. Meanwhile, negazeus making his way to the Mire Big Key. Both of them getting that kind of rude fire snake RNG where you just have to kind of walk after it.
Shkoople getting...
yeah.
I hate it when the Pokey decides to go up to the switch and gets a play.
Yeah, that's...
Hit the switch 3 times.
Learning how to avoid that is definitely not quite a rite of passage, but it's definitely something that at some point, if you're learning this game and grinding to improve it, you will spend time learning to avoid doing that. But it's still kind of funny. It doesn't lose a ton of time. You get turned into a bunny more than likely, and the switch hits 3 times. But other than that, not too nicely executed. Shkoople lacking the game knowledge to realize that he has to wait for the roller anyway. Stopping for those arrows would have been, it would have been given him a really, really solid chance of being able to skip both chests of arrows in GT.
I'm not sure if that was a missed dash turn there for negazeus.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. It seemed like really slow for something that was intentional for timing, because you do have to wait for that anti-fairy to avoid running directly into it. I'd guess more of a missed dash turn, but it didn't lose as much time as it could have.
So being on 5 hearts here is a little unfortunate for negazeus. You can still do the Vitria strat. I think, as Greenham clarified to me last time, I think the absolute minimum is 4.5 hearts. So maybe 4.25. But
I think we are going to see the mushroom that both runners picked up come into play here at this point. He took that extra heart of damage, and you can do a really cool trick if you are out of magic, which you are conveniently very close to after doing Spooky Action, which we didn't touch on when Shkoople did it. So basically, Spooky Action offsets your...
putting the block in the stairs, and yeah, that's one of those, when you realize you did it, it's oh man.
But if you run up, let's go over fake powder, since that's what just happened. If you don't have enough magic to lay a Samaria block and try to use the Cane of Samaria, and then immediately after the text box that tells you don't have enough magic, nice dash turn there to stay on the far right where the goo won't hit you. The game will misread, for whatever reason, the item that is in the mushroom slot as powder and use it. Which lets you use powder for the last couple dungeons without having to take 40 seconds to go get the powder. It's a really nice safety. It costs very little time to actually use, relative to its benefit. Where negazeus used it, and at the top of GT, before Moldorm, are the 2 places that it's very common to use. Oh yeah, and as Malmo is saying in chat, you can actually do fake powder with actual powder. The game will, even if you don't have enough magic to use the powder, if you have the Cane of Samaria, you can use powder anyway, which is cool. Also, if you accidentally menu to mirror instead of mushroom, after using the cane, the game will just use the mirror for you, even if you are not basically frame perfect in menuing again to correct that mistake, which is why I think probably why we saw negazeus not menu to the mirror at all. Not menu across the mirror, even though it's only a 2-move menu over mirror. I know it has happened to people in Misery Mire because it has happened to me, and that's how I learned about it. I'm sure it has happened to someone in GT. Speaking of GT, shkoople making pretty quick work of the basement. I have never seen the room completed quite that way, walking straight back up into that warp, but it's, pretty marginal time difference. Yeah, so leaving Turtle Rock, shkoople is 48 seconds ahead of his PB, which would put him at like a 128.25 or something, if the rest goes as well. I know he had a very good GT. This isn't his best pace I've seen him with. I saw him like 50 whole seconds ahead going into GT with 7 blue balls versus the 8. But yeah, no, this is a very good run from shkoople, and the time disparity, like, nothing against negazeus's play, but honestly, like, shkoople would be pretty hard to keep up with playing like this for a runner of, at shkoople's level even. He's on a very good run right now. Some nice Joe Mimic strats. I love that strat in that room. No fear. I'm saying that, like, if shkoople was running against himself, he'd be hard to beat. Which he is. He'd be hard pressed to beat this run. And shkoople is the one with the better PB of the two. So, like, not even. What I was trying to do is not take anything away from negazeus being behind, even with the deaths, because even without him, he'd be hard pressed to keep up with shkoople like this. But anything could happen in the gauntlet, and negazeus getting the same RNG as shkoople, showing how it should be done. That was incredibly well executed. Got a nice dash, and shkoople will have to look at that one for VOD review later. Very good gauntlet, though. Gauntlet 3 was the only thing that was slower than you'd like it to be, and even that was not too bad. And a nice adjustment to get the last shot on the landmo.
negazeus almost getting the double kill there, but that pokey deciding to go left instead, unfortunately.
One of the most satisfying rooms to do. That second was rogue room from shkoople. Very nice. Didn't even get the last guy didn't even get the shot out, so it was very well done, and on pace for a fast torches too. Yeah, he should be able to beat the jingle. Nicely done.
It's a little unfortunate for negazeus. I wonder if he's going to go for it or if he's going to fake powder again. Alright, looks like he's just going to go for it. Alright.
Yeah, Trinex is a very dangerous boss, to be sure. Does a lot of damage, but it is one of the more consistent boss fights. Once you've learned it.
For sure.
If things go wrong at 3 hearts, they were very likely going to go wrong at enough to take more than 1 hit. So honestly, I get the impulse here to just go for the fight. If it goes like it usually does for you, I don't think that's probably how it normally goes for negazeus, but definitely a good enough phase 1. Getting the double spin on I will admit I never go for the double spin if I am on 1 hit. I'm just too occasionally slow. Nice triple to finish off Aga 2 on shkoople's side. Honestly, he might re-gold his GT. I don't know the cutscene time. I think he's going to. So he's going to be nearly a minute ahead. He gained time, and he was running against a gold. Okay, I lied. He lost 0.2 seconds in GT. Nicely done 1-1 from shkoople. And yeah, so that's now we get to see the last and greatest if you count by fun. Not quite greatest if you count by time save. Actually, of the Japanese 1.0 exclusive glitches, this is probably the biggest time save, is the Silverless Ganon fight. So there's a very small window where Ganon can take damage from swords before he starts his warp. We use this to skip the gold sword silver arrows entirely, saving about a minute and change. Nice fight so far. A little late on that fire rod light. Oh yeah, IPBJ is the biggest time save, but it is not Japanese 1.0 exclusive. Whereas Silverless Ganon is. In fact, I don't think IPBJ was even patched out for the Game Boy Advance version. However, shkoople with a very nice Ganon. This is going to be a huge PB because he saves time on this Ganon fight too. So yeah, get your GGs in chat for shkoople. Amazing run. 128.18 on his splits. 128.19 in race time. So yeah, GG's. Huge run.
Very nicely done for sure. And negazeus coming into his Ice Armos fight. See how this goes.
And honestly, like with 3 deaths, 2 of which were some of the most punishing in the game, Helma and Cold Stare, as well as the one in Skull Woods. negazeus is still in GT before shkoople's done. Has been definitely making quick work of the rest of the game. Has been playing really well. So yeah, very well done. Starting his climb now. Slightly different mimic strat from Negazeus, but also very effective. Probably equally as fast. Nice. He didn't get out of the way in time to, beat the spike with his invulnerability frames. So just charging a dash while he waited seems pretty smart. I don't know how much time it would possibly save, but it was pretty cool all the same. Nice adjustment there with the Zazak moving the way he did. Unfortunately, getting some bad RNG in this room. There is exactly one RNG, and it is that one where an early dash down won't just hit that top Zazak. So there are a couple things you can do to avoid it. You can save your menu to Fire Rod for there. Also getting very rude Landmo 2 RNG.
Unfortunately, gonna have to pick up that extra little magic pot here after Landmo 2 now.
And the short hop, that's just rude. He was waiting and just gonna go for a slash because that's all he needed, but Landmo had other ideas. And that goes to what we were saying. That obviously that the RNG wasn't the difference in this race, but a lot of the rooms, if shkoople had gotten that Landmo 2 RNG, there's no guarantee it would have gone much differently for him. Probably would have been a 2 cycle at least. Sometimes the stars align, and learning all the RNGs is a huge part of why the skill ceiling on this game is as high as it is. And one of the reasons I love running it, because you can there's so much learning improvement that can happen with this game. Negazeus coming very close to a jingle glitch, probably because he picked up that heart. But he grabbed the torch key, which I did not notice. So he does not have to grab the key from this chest. It's a little more consistent, if about a second slower. Frame ruled by Moldorm 2.
Oh, that's just unfortunate.
Yeah.
Oh, and on the spikes. I always forget where the spikes are there.
You don't want to run out of magic here, Negazeus. I guess finishing the run is the important part for him at this point, is what's going through his mind, I think. Just doesn't want to risk it. Doing that fake powder again, just to finish it out, which at this point I can't blame him for. We are joined in the booth by shkoople. Welcome and GG.
Thank you. Hello.
GG shkoople.
So, how are you feeling?
Shaky. A PB feeling. But
yeah,
I'm feeling good. Obviously, it does feel good to finally get this run.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know you've been knocking on the door of 128 since you got a 129, and you kicked that door open in this race. How are you feeling about how it was probably going? I know you weren't watching, but
no, I was totally in my own bubble, just focused up. But I felt pretty good, and then I lost my mind in Skull, and that knocked me down a peg, and then we picked it back up.
Yeah. Skullwoods was an adventure, but most of the rest of your splits were very, very solid. Pod could have been better, but it wasn't bad.
Yeah, Helmet was slow, and the bomb jump, I buffered a lot, but I just didn't want to miss it or die to Helmet.
Yeah.
So I was playing very safe.
And yeah, we got to see why you skipped the Hera bomb jump and got your first 128 without the Hera bomb jump as well.
Yeah, it was very, very shaky in practice, and so I don't know. I just decided not to do it.
Yeah.
Negazeus, unfortunately, now realizing that he needs magic.
Why you don't usually fake powder after a Moldarm 2 fall. But there is a convenient tree in Kakariko, and at this point, finishing the run is higher value. But yeah, the race was definitely very firmly in your favor after Pod. negazeus made a little time up on blue balls, but was still behind, and then took a death to Helma. And obviously never recovered, but there were a couple other mishaps, a cold stare death and a death in the middle of Skullwoods that definitely made this the margin it was. But honestly, played it out, and there was a lot of solid gaming in the rest of the run from negazeus. Had a much nicer Poke 1 than you with the same RNG. So on the rewatch, you can check that out.
Yeah, sometimes that's the way it goes, and I was very scared that's the way it was going to go for me.
Yeah, it's that's this game sometimes, and honestly, like, being able to finish out a run like this in a restreamed race setting is that takes some major fortitude. And so yeah, props again to negazeus for finishing it out.
That was a spooky hit to go in for, but nice job on getting it.
How many blue balls did you get? I didn't do the math.
I think it was 5, but I don't know, dude. I lost my mind.
I knew it wasn't a small number, but I knew it was less than 8, so I knew you were gonna be happy with that coming out.
Yeah, it's hard to be mad when your PB has 8 with any number of blue balls.
Pretty much.
Nice cape spin there from negazeus. So in a cape spin is when you light the torch after Ganon has fired a fire bat. So after that, or when he's warping, and it's a 5 frame or less window, I think. But yeah, get your GGs in chat for negazeus finishing in second place. With a pretty good Ganon fight, and there was a lot of good gaming there. So, yeah.
Definitely GG. And again, props to finishing that out.
But yeah, how many of your races have you done in Group shkoople? We thought it was 0, but we weren't entirely sure.
Yeah, it's 0. I have Glenn tomorrow night, and then Coxla on Sunday.
So this is a good way to kick off groups with a fat 50-second PB.
Yeah,
so
that's a bar though that I have to now duplicate. I feel like.
I mean, like you've been playing at roughly this level for a while, so it's not. I don't know. It's don't think too much about it. It's a bar you can reach. I think maybe not like PB, but you can play at this level.
Sometimes
we are joined by negazeus. GG, dude.
Hey, thanks.
Yeah, GG on sticking that out.
Yeah, that was a challenge. No doubt about that. I'm just glad it's over, actually. I wish I could have had a better race for everyone to watch, but I mean, stuck it through, and that was looked like shkoople. You had a really good time. That wasn't a PB, right?
that was a big PB. Actually.
Oh, that was okay.
Yeah.
I didn't really get a chance to look at it, but nice, GG, man.
Thank you. GG to yourself.
Thank you.
So yeah, a couple costly things that happened to everyone from time to time. It was like Helma gave you such rude patterns in phase 2. The first time around. Like you went from, I want to say, like 5 hearts to 0 just in phase 2. Like it was.
Yeah, I mean, usually, I guess I take it for granted that he's gonna give me a good pattern eventually, but he didn't.
Yeah. And then like released the spin a little early on Cold Stare, but there was some really good. You had some good rooms and good dungeons. After that, Swamp was pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, once you get past the huge time loss, then you're like, okay, well, I mean, it can't get that much worse from here. Little did I know, but you at least feel a little bit at ease.
Pressure's off.
Yeah, right.
For sure.
Yeah, definitely had some good, came back, had some great execution on a lot of the rooms. The refight on Cold Stare was basically perfect.
Yeah.
So, you just accept what happened and, do what you can with the rest of it, and you did.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, it was still fun regardless. Thank you to everyone for putting together the restream. I always appreciate the kind of chance to play in a big race like this. So it's pretty fun.
Yeah.
So you're done with your group matches, right? I think.
Yeah.
Was this?
Yeah,
your
this
third?
was my third.
So, and you went 1 and 2, I think, right?
Yeah, right.
So, and were you were the third seed or the?
Right. Yeah. I was third
So-
seed, so it looks like I'm most likely going to finish in third. I think just the way the math works, I
Right.
don't think I can.
Right.
I think I'm locked in third.
That's most likely. At the very least. Yeah. Well done.
Yeah, I really like the format of the tournament. It's really cool to be able to play against people against your own level, not have that one
Mhm.
match that's, well, I lost. And then, the tournament, the bracket round will be really cool. So if I get 2 more matches out of that would be awesome.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Being someone who was in the AD tournament, my group had Louis, Pika Pals, and Super Nin Taylor. So walking into that group, I was like, oh, okay, well, that's fun.
Yeah, I had Doom Tap in mine, and I don't even think he was the 1 seed in mine. Actually, yeah, because I think he didn't have that good of a PB back then. So it was yeah.
Yeah. But then, coming to this, and, again, big thanks to Blaine for doing this reorganization of the brackets and the group stage like this. Like, it makes it much more enjoyable for everyone. Just you get a better matchup to race in. the viewers get to see a closer race. Commentators get to commentate a closer race. Like, it's just better all around. So again, shout outs and thanks for that.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, this tournament is the tournament's about doing runs and like kind of celebrating the community, and all of that goes to all of that you guys mentioned goes toward making that happen. So huge shout outs to the admin team of the tournament and the community as a whole that's made this a possibility. So yeah, I think that just about does it for me.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you very much. GG's shkoople and is it negazeus?
Yeah, negazeus.
Okay. Yeah. GG's guys. And also thank you very much, Desert Eagle 417 and Vortex of Doom for doing commentary. We do have another match coming up right after this at the top of the hour. It's going to be Chex Human versus, is it SNES Chalmers? Or is it?
Yep.
Or is it SNES Chalmers? That's what I'm never sure about. So
Super Nintendo Chalmers.
Okay. Is it Super Nintendo System for the S?
Super Nintendo Entertainment System.
Okay.
But
Okay.
go
So-
Google that if you don't know it. It's a good joke.
Okay. So do we have anything else we'd like to say before we end things so we can get the other restream set up?
GG's again to both
Yeah,
of the
GG's.
racers, and stick around for the next race. It's going to be a good one.
Should be starting soon. So thanks everyone for joining us, and we hope to see you. Hope that you hang around for the next match. Take care. Bye.